Now, I've made many videos directly and many alluding to the fact that yes, the Total Gym is an excellent and, in my opinion, a superior way to build muscle at home. That is both efficient and simple. And whenever I say building muscle in these videos, I simply mean increasing muscle definition, muscle size, or increasing lean body mass. But I haven't really specifically addressed if a total gym can increase your overall strength. So in this video, I'll tackle this subject head on by first addressing the difference and defining what is training for strength versus training for hypertrophy or muscle definition. And I'll also address some of the pros and cons or limitations of using a total gym, because really any modality is going to have some pros and some cons. And finally, I'm actually going to push the machine to its limits by showing you some exercises by body part that demonstrate the strength-based capabilities of a total gym. So hopefully you guys find this video informative. If you guys do, it's always helpful if you guys like and subscribe. Let's jump right into the video. Let's first define muscular strength, because I understand that for most people, whenever they hear on any kind of device or machine or modality that whenever you can build muscle, they automatically assume it means you're building strength. And just to define strength, most people, understand that by having strength, it does literally simply mean most of us thinks it means, which is if you are strong, you should have a higher capability to express an absolute amount of strength. And there's a level of specificity here, which we can get into later, meaning you can be stronger in certain movements or muscles or functions based on the demands that you place upon your body to signal that specific adaptation. So just because you're strong doesn't mean you're strong all around. You might be stronger or weaker in certain areas. Now, an adaptation to strength in a given area of a body would by nature mean larger muscles, tendons, stronger bones, etc. But it also means more trained and coordinated connection between your central nervous system and your muscle. Because believe it or not, most people are already fairly strong just with their own basic genetics. They just lack the ability and or skills to basically, or you could say training, to actually express this strength on demand. So in theory, if we want to train that connection and also the physical architecture of our muscles to be strong on demand, we should essentially be practicing lifting heavy things, and ideally with heavy weight and therefore lower repetitions. That would be the perfect example of if we want to get stronger and lift heavier things. We should practice lifting heavier things, basically. Then the question becomes, well, what type of heavier things are we actually going to practice lifting to elicit this adaptation? Because there's all sorts of things we can practice that might be relatively quote-unquote heavy. Barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, full-on resistance training machines, progressive calisthenic techniques, resistance bands, and in all these areas you have specialists and people that really are gung-ho in one particular area. They're going to have pros and limitations, but also to think about the context of the individual, that all these things might not be practical for the individual's goals, their budgets, their limitations, like I said, and just selecting something that's ideal for them to use in their home. Now, training for hypertrophy or muscular enlargement or muscle definition, which is what I've stressed and focused a large part in this channel, what I usually kind of basically promote the total gym is doing really well, we are more concerned with direct, consistent stress to the muscle in our workouts. So we don't necessarily have to train with heavy resistance all the time. We are seeking a variety of tension, reps, sets, rest periods, or exercises to do whatever we have to do to tell the body and just signal to the body that the muscle is getting worked. So we're basically telling our bodies that in order to keep up with this amount of stress and demand or direct stress and trauma to a specific area, or these little micro tears in the muscle fibers, the muscle itself needs to grow to accommodate that stress. And it should go without saying, it might not be obvious for most people, but if you're training for strength versus if you're training for muscular hypertrophy or training for muscular definition or just defining your body more, these two goals are not mutually exclusive. While you're doing more traditional hypertrophy related training, you'll definitely be getting stronger due to the fact that you're still practicing lifting relatively heavy things compared to maybe especially where you were initially starting at. And if you're training in a more traditional strength training routine, like low repetitions, really heavy weight, you will inevitably be signaling the body to adapt because of the inherent stress to a given muscle. And now this isn't also factoring in any other nutritional things that correspond with just body size and body mass, which I won't get into for this video as well. But definitely recognize, and some of you guys are already aware of this whole subject of what I'm talking about training for strength versus training for muscular hypertrophy and specific ways to achieve this, really is a hot topic in the world of fitness. It has been for many years. It'll likely continue to be for many years to come. But most of the times when I hear these discussions around this subject, most of the times I don't even think they're really disagreements. They're really just arguing over semantics, in my opinion. But to kind of wrap up and to be brief here, just because someone has a lot of muscle mass or visible muscle doesn't mean they are going to be stronger than someone who has less muscle or muscle mass than them. and vice versa. If someone is very strong, it doesn't mean that they will have less visible muscle than someone who isn't. However, most of the time, unless we're talking about somebody who is like really, really lean and you see visible muscle that way, if someone has some muscle mass or visible muscle definition, they should by nature kind of some above average level of strength compared to the general population, or just where they were initially. So forgive me if that was a long introduction into strength training versus hypertrophy, but I feel like it's really needed to clarify what I'm about to kind of get into. Considering this, I've had many people that comment on my channel or they've emailed me asking the question or just kind of asserting the fact that the total gym really is not good for traditional strength training or building raw strength. They might say, well, it looks good for toning your body a little bit. They'll use those words, or maybe defining your body, getting a good resistance training workout, or might be good for some like a beginner just starting out, building up a base level of strength. But really, you're getting the same results, or if not better results. Maybe just doing some traditional bodyweight calisthenics or progressive calisthenics. Really, the total gym is not a good resistance training or pure strength training machine or device. And by looking at the total gym at first glance, you kind of see, well, there's no external weight. It seems kind of somewhat limited to what you can actually do and accomplish in this machine. And to these kind of comments at first, I'm really sympathetic to this. And maybe I even would have agreed to this idea with their first impressions had I not had such a long experience so far using the total gym with great success, in my opinion, with my own results. But if someone told me then, or if I was aware of the many ways we can increase the level of intensity or just tension on the muscle, if I was aware of this stuff and I was kind of more, just knowledgeable about it, then maybe I might admit even back then that, yeah, I think it might be possible to build up a decent level of strength using a total gym. To ultimately answer the question if the total gym or some other sliding bench trainer can build strength, it really comes down to if you can increase the intensity or level of resistance enough to keep up with your own body's demands for more work or improvement of strength. So understanding, presenting all of this, if we look at the total gym through the foundational exercises and working prime muscles, can we increase our strength in, say, our chest, back, arms, legs, our torso? Can we do that? Can we load those body parts up specifically? And I would argue definitely yes. And if you can do that, then you should inevitably be able to get stronger in those given prime movement patterns or prime dominant muscles. Now, before I present the videos, the high intensity exercises showing you guys how you can actually build strength in all these areas, I did just do a video recently that I think is relevant to discuss, where I got in depth in my repetitions and rep ranges on a total gym, and I did a little experiment to see what was like my average rep range, where essentially I break my form. My average was essentially 12 repetitions, which I think is pretty good when you consider that I'm a male, 205 pounds. I would say I have above average strength in general population, and that my average where I was breaking form was 12 repetitions. I'm not trying to say that I'm like super strong or I'm boasting like that. My point is, like, I think I'm above average in just the general population. And when you consider that, for me, I was still essentially losing form on average around 12 repetitions, that for most people, you don't really have to do any really super crazy things like I'm going to show you here and really test the limits, because the baseline model itself can already kind of get you to a certain level of intensity. I think that's going to be perfect enough for most people. I had someone comment recently telling me that they, they're still at like level 4 or 5 on just the tower height, and that's kind of enough of a stress for them. So my point is, even the baseline person starting out, you guys got a lot of room to just kind of grow in the machine if you're choosing to do so. Now, for the sake of making this an objective argument, looking at some of these exercises, I basically tried to really challenge these prime movers by only really working them and trying to show you guys how I'm going to work within traditional strength training repetitions. So I wanted to see, could I get the tension or resistance hard enough where I'm getting up to like 1 to 6 repetitions? Like, can I really stress myself enough where I really can't even get out maybe 1 to 6 reps? Now, you'll notice for sure some of these are high risk moves. I'm not encouraging everybody to do these. Definitely pushing the limits in the machine. And as I said earlier, most people don't necessarily even do this. But I simply want to make the case and show you that through some creative means, these are not an exhaustive list of exercises, you can really tax your muscles and your muscle groups in a pretty high intensity way if you choose to do so. Again, there's limitations though. Not everybody can get in these positions. Not everyone's going to want to get in these positions in the first place. That's the other big part of this. But I simply just want to address the fact that yes, through this machine alone, you can definitely find that resistance, a certain high level of resistance to work pretty much every body part in the body. Okay, so to jump right into it, we'll do some chest exercises first to show you just a simple basic chest press, just showing you how much I can really stress this muscle group. Again, all I got is the middle pulley detached. That makes things a lot harder. I don't even have the tower height at the highest setting. I think I barely get 6. When I really elevate this total gym machine, I can't even get like 2 repetitions. So I'm not showing you every single crazy little angle and way to kind of get these out. I'm just simply showing you that for me, I can get to a point where I'm really working in those really high intensity strength rep ranges of like 1 to 6, where I can't even, really even bust out 1 or 2. Certainly you can add resistance bands and again, fine tune the tension that you guys want. Moving on to back, same thing. I can use some resistance bands to kind of fine tune that tension. That's kind of a little bit of a different tension. And again, everyone's different, unique, and kind of how they want to set this up. I got both cables kind of attached together, both handles attached together. Even kind of where you sit in the machine can kind of vary this intensity. But really, this is a rep range I wouldn't say is high intensity, but simply showing you I'm still pretty much struggling with these resistance bands, and I definitely could make this harder. I just want to again just show you just some variants, some subtle ways to kind of vary these intensities. Now here, this is another great way, is just taking away all this stuff and then just going single arm. So I got the cable, the middle pulley detached, just doing a raw single arm pull. I would put this as far as up there in intensity with any kind of heavy, cable stack machine you'd find in the gym, or any kind of single arm row. In fact, in a second here, I'm going to switch hands. But I'm going to show you guys, out of curiosity, I went and grabbed my 90-pound dumbbells to see how those felt after I did this, and these felt way harder. You can really, I don't know if you can really see it, but I'm really struggling to kind of get these out. I didn't count the repetitions here, but I would definitely up these as something that would be pretty high intensity. I didn't even add any external weight. The tower height's not even at its highest, and I can even elevate this further. And again, here's just me kind of simply curling 90 pounds. I'm not saying this is like perfect form or anything, but the point was this felt a lot easier. This is 90-pound dumbbell versus me not just using my body weight and putting on a single handle on a detached cable. Now here's some extremes for like a horizontal pull, like a pull down or a pull up. Again, there's all sorts of variations and settings I can put this at. I could make this harder if I want to. I don't know if this really does it justice, but this is pretty difficult. And again, I can crank it up even further here in a second and make an even more vertical row, or like a pull up, and also increase the difficulty. So that's pretty intense. Now I'm going to up the intensity for something else, for a double cable row. If you didn't want to do a single arm row, which I would think would be better. Again, this is a crazy move, pushing the machine to the limits here. I'm not recommending everybody to do this. I felt fine doing it, but again, I put it on the single cable detached pulley method. I got this kind of elevated here, and then in a second here, I'm going to do something a little crazy. Is just kind of elevating it on the bench, and then finally I'll put it on that windowsill, which honestly, my whole setup actually worked out pretty good. This windowsill is actually perfect, not just for filming, but it's a perfect kind of height, and worked out excellent for the total gym. And honestly, I feel pretty comfortable. Not everyone's going to have this availability to do this, but again, I'm testing the extreme limits here. Here's me kind of getting in this extreme angle. And again, this felt fine, and in some ways, I'll be honest, it felt kind of fun. Yes, it's risky if like your hands, you let go and you fell backwards. I guess you got that squat stand to catch you. I'm kind of joking, but yeah, my point was this was very hard. I don't need any external weights. If I really wanted to challenge a really heavy row, this is definitely doable. So I just kind of wanted to show you that it really does it justice, in my opinion. I don't see any need, or I don't feel any limitations with any kind of horizontal or any vertical pulling motions as far as really taxing my back in any way, shape, or form. Getting into the shoulders in some sort of, horizontal pressing motion, how can you really tax your shoulders? In my opinion, for most people, even this basic, I shouldn't say basic, but just doing the traditional inverted shoulder press, which you can actually switch those handles 2 different ways if you guys want to get a slightly different angle. For most people, this is hard enough. And I got a higher rep range here. I just want to show you that for most people, this is hard enough. But again, I can certainly take this up. And again, I'm going to show you guys an extreme version of this as well. I feel like I don't need, 80, 90, 100-pound dumbbells in the gym. I can honestly tax my shoulders pretty adequately, just jacking up this incline. And again, I'm going to show you guys a really extreme incline that might look a little nuts, but honestly, I felt fine. The machine felt fine to me. I didn't really feel totally unstable. It's equivalent to like doing a handstand push-up almost, but I'd say that's slightly bit easier. Notice I switched the handles around a little bit here, but this was pretty tough. You can see me kind of grinding out these last few repetitions here. But again, point is shoulders. You can definitely, max out your shoulders if you would like on one of these machines. just as much as I'd say any traditional barbell with loaded up with, you know, 2 plates on each side. And there are some unique ways doing, you know, really maxing out the shoulders using the cables with having that middle pulley detached. I've shown this in other videos too. Not the best angle, but I just want to show you guys that this is another way to do it. For the sake of time, I'm not going to show you guys a whole lot of single joint stuff, and even if you guys saw some of those variations, I can detach the middle pulley to really tax any kind of single joint upper body exercise, from flies to curls, tricep extensions, using bands, external weight, even something with, again, nothing really anything fancy, but just showing you guys that even with at the extreme tower height, doing something like lateral raises, very difficult on its own with the machine, and in my opinion gives most people a run for their money. And I think for most people doesn't really necessitate the need to, you know, feel like you have to run to the gym or find any specialized machine or need some external weights to really challenge definitely any single joint muscle in the upper body. I was going to go into more single joint stuff with my like hamstring curls and even quadriceps extensions. You could. I just didn't want to make this video crazy long, because I could make this video go on for an hour showing you guys the different variations that you can. I just wanted to give you guys a general synopsis of this. Even things like calf raises, I could fine tune this and find a nice hard setting too, but even with some resistance bands, you can even work something as obscure as kind of like your calves on some machine like this. For legs, I'd say the biggest weak area that for most people would be like the linchpin of the saying, you know, this thing has its big limitations, will be in the leg department. Now, I'm not saying you guys have to be a purist. I mean, you certainly, if you have access to a gym, or maybe you have like a squat stand with some weights, I would say, yeah, a nice, you know, barbell squat is awesome. Deadlifting, obviously great. You might have some other external dumbbells or like kettlebells and stuff like that, but my point is loading this thing up with bands, doing a single leg press, and again, some people will say a double leg squat will be totally fine loaded up, but for me, my point is this gave me a run for the money. I mean, other videos on how you can attach resistance bands, but this was definitely hard enough. I want to find something on the total gym that can really tax my glutes, hamstrings, quads. You can see, I mean, they're kind of on fire. Everything's kind of working to really get myself out of this bottom position. You can do it. You just got to get a little bit creative. And, you know, just find what works for you. I can think in some people's heads, they might think, well, barbell, you get a lot more flexibility, you can do a lot more other things, or maybe this machine seems limited. But if you think about what are people really going to be using the barbell for legs, it's going to be squatting and maybe some lunging. That's pretty much it. So in my opinion, there's a lot of variety that I'm not going to show you in this video of different leg exercises that you could do, let alone really add a bunch of intensity to really work in those like strength sets. So I'm just showing you guys some different variations. Some stuff I haven't shown you before, like having this weight bar attachment kind of slid through and kind of holding it at this certain angle. That just allows you to really kind of brace yourself to kind of drill into this exercise. If you guys can't notice, I actually got bands set up at different spots. I had one band kind of hooked up in the middle, right over like in the middle hook too. So all sorts of things you guys can do. I'm sure a lot of you guys might even have other creative ideas as well as far as how to work the legs. I haven't even touched the external weight on the weight bar resistance. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice, guys, making this video for you guys. Made a lot of different takes on this video, but I just wanted to, again, giving you guys some basic ideas. You're going to see some other exercises that I threw in this particular day that might seem a little extreme. Now this one, I did this earlier with resistance bands. It gets a little iffy, but the point is, this is really drilling in the glutes, especially in this exercise, but like a reverse hack. We're kind of simulating a reverse hack squat. And again, this maybe doesn't look like it, but I think it can only probably get like 6 to 8 repetitions. And there's tons of other little nuanced exercises. Like this is one I do from time to time. If I want something that's like on the heavier side, where I put some bands on that really hits the glutes and quadriceps. This is a unique one that I don't feature enough, that if I'm looking for something to do that I actually feel like it feels pretty stable to me, the gym feels, or the total gym feels pretty locked in. I like doing that. So I'm going to wrap this up kind of right now, guys, but I know this might have like really just kind of a crash course, just saying that, yes, these are just some of the samplings of exercises that you can do to just show you guys that you can load up pretty much every major body part on a total gym to a fairly high intensity. Yes, there's pros and cons. Yes, there's personal limitations. I just wanted to show you guys that, yes, it is doable. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, definitely let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.